So we need to talk about the DNC fraud lawsuit that was filed in June of 16 by Bernie Sanders supporters who felt that the DNC took their donations and lied because they took their donations under false pretenses. Millions of Bernie supporters said they donated money to Bernie and the DNC under the assumption that the primary would be run fairly according to the DNC's charter. And of course, there's all this damning evidence, you know, the Podesta emails, Donna Brazile giving Hillary answers before debates. I mean, it's on and on. So, and what just happened, and I have two articles. One is from Counterpropa, which is another alternative media written by Zach Haller. And then the other one is Caitlin Johnstone, who calls herself a rogue journalist and is covering this in medium.com, that she goes a Clintonian. She refers to medium.com as a Clintonian circle jerk, which is hilarious. So what both of these articles go into, and their links are below, is what basically the counsel in defense of the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz has basically said that they have the right to do this and a judge doesn't have the right to step in, to interfere. And I've even talked to some friends of mine that are on the left and they've said, oh, but they're a private party. They should have the right to run a primary however they see fit. Well, there's several problems with that. First of all, both parties, Democrats and Republicans, get tax dollars to run their primaries. And many of the primary elections, I'm sure many of you, the polling places are in schools and libraries and other federally funded places. So they can't say this. And also, why have this? It's a waste. If you're going to just do it behind closed doors, then why spend taxpayer dollars so that we can have a fake primary election? We can all get involved. I mean, there was evidence of election fraud where people they knew were Bernie supporters, they turned them from Democrats into independents so they couldn't vote. They blocked millions of independents in the New York primary. This was all Clinton and the DNC. And what happened was, so there is, and Bruce Spiva is the judge. So first of all, there's the Article 5, Section 4 of the DNC Charter. This is how it reads. The chairperson shall exercise impartially and even-handedness as between the presidential candidates and campaigns. The chairperson shall be responsible for ensuring that the national officers and staff of the Democratic National Committee maintain impartiality and even-handedness during the Democratic Party presidential nominating process. So the DNC leaks the Podesta emails and Donna Brazile acting as a mole for CNN. That wasn't fair. It wasn't even-handed. Their own charter says it wasn't even-handed. The reason this charter was created was in 1968, there were riots. The Democratic Convention was in Chicago in 1968, and there was riots. And of course, the Chicago police force, Mayor Rich Daley, and then his son was mayor, and people who grew up in Chicago always referred to him as the old man when the old man ran the city. Yeah, he'd just go nightstick long hairs in the park is what he did. So a lot of people were abandoning the Democratic Party because it was LBJ that kept ramping up Vietnam. And then there was a fight to see who would run against Nixon in '68. And so many people abandoned the Democratic Party because they didn't feel represented. So they created this whole thing of caucuses and all this stuff. Okay. But then in 1972, I think it was McGovern got crushed against Nixon running for his second term. And so they came up with super delegates because they felt McGovern was too populist and we can't let this happen again. So they came up with the superdelegate thing, which is another way that they stole this. So this is just a little back history on why they wrote this Article 5, Section 4 of the DNC Charter. And they have now come out to say that they basically just admitted it. It's crazy. First, there's another article here, 7 jaw-dropping revelations from hearings on the motion to dismiss the DNC fraud lawsuit. So they just the DNC lawyers filed a motion to dismiss the fraud lawsuit. Okay? So last Monday, senior U.S. District Judge William Zlock heard oral arguments regarding a motion to dismiss filed by attorneys representing the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the class action lawsuit filed against them. The lawsuit seeks damages on behalf of Democratic Party donors who made financial contributions to Bernie Sanders, right? Under the primary presumption that it would be conducted fairly as the charter, as I just said. So transcripts released from the hearing Friday exposed numerous shocking revelations presented by the Democrats' counsel arguing in support of the motion to dismiss regarding the way the Democratic Party views its obligations and responsibilities in conducting the primary nominating process. Judge Zlock did not issue a ruling from the bench. He will issue a written order in response to the motion to dismiss at a later unspecified date as he considers the merits of the defendants on the motion. This is what they said. The Democrats' counsel advised U.S. federal judge recently was promoted to the bench. A lawsuit would be dismissed outright because litigating the DNC's business would, quote, drag the court right into the political squabbles. This judge was appointed by Reagan in 1985, and he was told there'd be no way constitutionally to offer redress. Yeah, it is. It's in your charter. Despite this being the court's one job, city, state, county, federal courts review legal issues related to political squabbles, big and small, on a daily basis. And yeah, and this specifically exists as a separate branch of our government to perform this very function independent of political disputes arising in executive branches. So they basically, so they're kind of saying that they're admitting it, right? So the DNC has now stated in court of law that it believes that there is no enforceable obligation to run the primary elections of this country's democracy in a fair and impartial manner, right? That's what they're admitting, that it shouldn't be fair. They asking the judge the lawsuit should be thrown out because the party has the freedom to determine its nominees by internal rule, not voter interests. And thus the party could, quote, have a favored candidate, quote. They're admitting it. We can have a favored candidate. So they're admitting that it's wrong. This is the DNC. So I argue with some people on Twitter who still think, change needs to come from within and we need to fix the DNC. I don't know, man. Maybe. This is their lawyer. This is what they're saying. And this is why the Democratic Party so fucking sickens me. Because they're acting just like some giant, well, they're a giant corporation. When a giant corporation gets busted and instead of going, we're sorry, we screwed up, here we go, they have their lawyers fight. Like the NFL. The NFL had to get pushed all the way to the Supreme Court before they would decide to pay their players money for the fact that they hid from them that CTE caused. This is the same. They cheated. They flat out cheated institutionally, and now they're saying we have the right to do this. They can do whatever they want, and yet they want you to join. And this is why I'm beginning to lose faith in Bernie Sanders. I got to be honest with you, because he's doing this unity tour. Even if he doesn't give a shit, and you could tell he doesn't like Tom Perez, it still seems like bullshit to me because he's the only person keeping actual progressives with that party. Because if Bernie Sanders were to go, there'd be no progressives. There wouldn't be any progressives going to that party at all. And this is just more evidence. They are just corporate evil fucking liars. And the only difference then from the Republicans are they're just for gay marriage. And, no travel bans. I mean, they'll bomb the shit out of Muslims like Obama did. They'll help the banks like Obama did. And then he just got paid $400,000 to speak for a bank. So this is just follow this case a lot. I'm going to try to follow this as best I can because it shows you how. And their response right now in court today is why what happened in the primary is still very relevant. Because they're not owning it. I've had people go, Graham, leave the elections over. You know, like, we got to move forward. We got to resist. Yeah, okay, I want to resist Trump. He's awful. He's evil. But the Democratic Party is not here to do it for us. The Democratic Party is not for us. They're for corporatists. They're for Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Donna Brazile and Chuck Schumer and Howard Dean and those assholes. That's who they're for. That's this lawsuit is all about. They can't even admit they're wrong. They can't admit it's unbelievable. They're just talking in circles. It's insane. And read these two things. Read these two articles. It's unbelievable, you know. And I give both of these people. I give Caitlin Johnson. I like her writing, and I'm gonna follow her more because it's like it's really it's unbelievable, you know. Because, and I'll give you a quote here. Harvard attorney Jared Beck, one of the plaintiffs in the case, told the Young Turks' Jordan Charlton that his jaw dropped when he heard this defense. He argues that without free and fair elections, democracy cannot be said to be happening in America, which is innately unconstitutional. They're saying we don't need to have a free election. We get to choose. Here's his quote from Harvard attorney Jared Beck. I think it even goes beyond the character, quite frankly, because this is fundamental to democracy. He said in an interview with TYT Politics. I mean, the Constitution speaks of a democratic political system, and I kept bringing this point up over and over again, is that in order to have a democracy, the DNC has to be even-handed and impartial in the process, or else we don't have a democracy in this country. And the transcript shows that Beck made these points. The core of democracy, and they just keep arguing and keep arguing. And what do they go? Oh, it's sexism. They're out to get Debbie Wasserman Schultz because she's a woman and they can't handle strong women. No, I'd love to see more women, but not corrupt assholes. How are you any different? It's just like Bill O'Reilly's out there getting a lawyer saying, oh, it's a witch hunt. No, Bill, you're a sexist creep that fucking harassed women. How are they any different? How are they any different? They're just less sexists? It sickens me, man. So, got to pay. And the other thing, the mainstream media isn't really covering this. Really? Is CNN and MSNBC going after this and they're this big thing, DNC admits to fraud? No, they're not. No, they're not, because the corporate media runs them. So this is how you got to support independent media, man. So people like Caitlin and this other article, Counterpropa, I mean, we're the only ones out there talking about it. The corporate media, man, cancel your cable. Don't support them. My Patreon link is below so that I can keep talking about stuff like this. Like and subscribe. Get more people to wake up. Get the Clintonians people. Get your friends who are like, oh, the DNC, we got to resist. Get them to wake up to this. Give them facts. Show them the facts. And slowly they'll start to wake up. It took me some time. Be patient with them. I needed some time. I heard these things. Oh, I don't know. Be patient with them, but get them to turn. We need the fucking left to wake up. Thanks for watching.